Good afternoon. I'm Amy Myers, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2022 Assessment and Accountability Information Meeting Series from the California Department of Education. Today is the last day of our three-part series, and we will learn about the California Education Reporting System, or CERS, and we're excited to hear from the Accountability Office with our accountability updates. Before we hand it off to our very knowledgeable presenters, we want to address a few housekeeping items. A copy of today's note-taking guide was sent to you via email. If you haven't received that link or need access to it again, the URL has been placed in the chat box. Selecting the URL will take you to a folder where you can download the notes. A copy of today's note-taking guide was sent to you, once again, in a link in an email. So we are putting that link into the chat box, and that same folder will give you access to the PowerPoints from the previous meetings, and then we will also put the PowerPoint from today's meeting in there after this meeting. So you will have access to that as well. Also, we will be recording today's presentation. An archive of this presentation will be available for download on the CAASPP.org past trainings and materials page, and it usually takes a week or two for the recording to be available. Now, without further ado, we'd like to welcome Tammy Saldana and Felicia Thomas Hill from the Interim and Formative Assessments Office to tell us everything we need to know about the California Education Reporting System, or CERS. All right, Felicia and Tammy.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon. I am Felicia Thomas Hill, and with me today is my colleague, Tammy Saldana. We are with the Interim and Formative Assessments Office at the CDE. We're happy to be here to provide an update on the California Educator Reporting System, also known as CERS, for the 2022-2023 school year. Today's agenda will include an overview of CERS, and during this overview, we will show a short video that demonstrates how to view assessment results in CERS. Next, we will update you on new and upcoming features in CERS. We will also give some information about upcoming professional development opportunities, and we will share some valuable resources for getting familiar with the features and functions of CERS. These resources can also be used to promote CERS use locally and support staff in accessing results. We will wrap up our session with some time to answer questions about CERS submitted through the Google form. Amy is dropping this form in the chat box right now. Let's begin today's session with a general overview of CERS. CERS is a one-stop shop for individual and aggregate state assessment results that allows teachers and administrators to access detailed student performance information for summative CAASPP, the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, and ELPAC, the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, as well as Smarter Balance interim assessments. The current and prior year student test results displayed in CERS can help to guide instruction and improve student learning when combined with other student information. Multiple measures, grades, classroom assignments, and teacher observations and more should all be considered when deciding instructional next steps. We would also like to point out that CERS was created with educator input, including California educators. Input from LEAs is instrumental in developing and updating CERS to ensure educators have the information they need about their students' progress. What assessments are available in CERS? Well, we will begin with the state summative assessments in CERS. LEA staff will find results for the Smarter Balance summative assessments for English Language Arts Literacy and Mathematics, the California Alternate Assessments, or CAAs, for ELA and Mathematics, the California Science Test, also known as CAASPP. And as we are speaking about science, I'll mention that results from the CAA for Science are expected to display in CERS November 8th, 2022. The California Spanish Assessment, known as the CSA, results are expected September 7th, 2022. The summative ELPAC and the summative alternate ELPAC was recently released this month. CERS offers local educational agency staff the earliest access to the latest assessment data. On our previous slide, we talked about summative assessments. CERS also houses interim assessment results. The interim assessments are available year-round, and because the interim assessments are intended to help inform teaching and learning throughout the year, results are available quickly. Smarter Balanced interim assessment results will typically display in CERS less than 20 minutes after any hand scoring has been completed. For the interim assessments, CERS displays item-level data such as key distractor analysis and student responses. As a reminder, there are 3 types of interim assessments. The Smarter Balanced interim comprehensive assessments, called ICAs, test the same content and report scores on the same scale as the summative assessments. The interim assessment blocks, called IABs, focus on smaller sets of related concepts and provide more detailed information for instructional purposes. And last, we have the focused interim assessment blocks, called focus IABs. They assess no more than 3 assessment targets to provide educators with an even more detailed understanding of student learning. Now, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Tammy, who will provide more information about CERS.
Thank you, Felicia. On the subject of interim assessments, here's a feature that you may want to know about. When viewing the IAB and focused IAB results, there is in CERS an instructional resources button that links to instructional resources, or lesson plans as teachers call them. These instructional resources buttons link to specific interim assessment connections playlists in the website Tools for Teachers. Each playlist provides educators with lesson plans that focus on the topic, skills, and content that are assessed by specific IABs or focused IABs. All of these lesson plans and tools for teachers are embedded with formative assessment and accessibility strategies that recommend ways for educators to provide instructional differentiation for diverse student needs. Also, another feature to remember is that CERS displays data features based on the Test Operations Management System, or TOMS, user role that is assigned. When administrators sign into CERS, they have a section called Administrator Tools. These administrator tools include buttons for custom aggregate reports, district and school exports, student groups, and instructional resources. Administrators use these buttons for managing assessment results, resources, and user access to assessment results. And don't forget that student groups button that is used to assign students to teachers. This is important to know since teachers will only be able to view student results after students have been assigned or rostered to them, as we call it. As administrators, you may want to consider managing student groups early in the year to give teachers access to their student results. So I just talked about the administrator homepage feature. Let's talk about the teacher's homepage view of CERS, which is a little different than the administrators. If student groups have been set up by coordinators or administrators, teachers will see the assigned student groups on their CERS homepage as links they can select and view assessment results by groups. They can also search for a student by entering the SSID to access individual student assessment results for any student that is assigned to them. And teachers also have the ability to make customized student groups by using the My Groups tab on their homepage. Now, CERS has a lot of features to offer, and we want to make sure that you know that a great way for staff to get familiar with all of those features is to just take some time to explore the system. And there's a very helpful training tool called the CERS Sandbox that allows staff to get familiar with CERS in a non-secure environment. It's good for individual exploring or to use during group training, like a professional learning community meeting. The CERS Sandbox is a public site with fictitious students and fictitious data from all summative and interim state tests. So feel free to share it with anyone that is interested in exploring CERS. And items are from practice tests and sample items, so there's no worries about item security or exposing any confidential student information while using the CERS Sandbox. You can get to the CERS Sandbox by selecting the CERS button on CAASPP.org or ELPAC.org, and there is a direct link in your note-taking guide. And now let's watch a short 5-minute demonstration of how results appear in CERS. This video is fairly new, and it's another good way to get familiar with CERS. It's a great video if there's limited time for presenting to teachers about CERS.
Let's move on to discover how results appear. From the home page, let's search for an individual student in the CERS Sandbox. We'll use the fictitious student account with the SSID 50000071163 and enter that into the search bar on the home page. Keep in mind that all data in the CERS Sandbox is simulated and all students are fictitious. When you search for a student or select an individual student from a group, you will find the student's student test history report with cards organized by assessment. You can filter the results by school year, subject, assessment type, and more with advanced filters. When you select an assessment, more information will appear. For interim assessments, you can select the date and find the student's list of responses. Item level data is not available for summative assessments. From the individual students page, data can be exported into a CSV file or downloaded as a printable report. When creating a report, different filters can be selected to generate a custom report for the student. After selecting the Create Report button, you will be taken to the My Reports page, where you can select the name to download the report data, view or save the report query, or delete the report. Now let's go back to the home page and view results by group. Let's select the Sample High School Grade 11 group from the home page. By default, the group results will show the most recent assessment. To select other assessments, select the plus button or the Select Assessments button. Fictitious students in the CERS Sandbox have results from multiple assessments that may not be reflective of a typical student. For demonstration purposes, we're going to select a few different grade 11 assessments, including the California Alternate Assessment, or CAA Math Summative, the English Language Arts and Literacy, or ELA, Interim Comprehensive Assessment, or ICA, the ELA Summative, the ELPAC Summative, the California Science Test, or CAST Summative, the California Spanish Assessment, or CSA Summative, and the ELA Performance Task Interim Assessment Block, or IAB. When accessing a group of students, the results panel for each assessment will display a lot of information, including, most notably, a student scale score distribution and a roster of the students who took the assessment. From the roster, individual students can be selected to access the student's individual test history or print a summative report. In addition to the scale scores and rosters, different assessments will have different data available. For the Smarter Balanced Interim Comprehensive Assessments, you can select specific sessions of administration, and the data will update as you add or remove sessions. Claim data can be selected for visualizations of claims below, near, or above standard. For the interim assessments, item level data can be found by selecting Results by Item from the Select a Results View drop-down menu. To access individual student responses, select the item number. For some assessments, such as the ELA summative, there may or may not be claim data available based on the blueprint used for that school year. For the ELA summative assessment, aggregate writing trait scores can be accessed by selecting the Writing Trait Scores option from the Select a Results View drop-down menu. There are tabs for the different writing types, such as argumentative, explanatory, informational, narrative, and opinion. This data can also be exported by selecting the Export button. For assessments with different domains, such as the summative ELPAC or the CAASPP, the composite scores or individual domains can be selected for different data visualizations. Some assessments, such as the CSA, will have only the scale scores. IABs feature an Instructional Resources button that will link to Connections playlists, which connect to groups of lesson plans and resources in Tools for Teachers based on the content assessed by the IAB.
The video segment that we just watched is called the Understanding the California Educator Reporting System. A link to that video is in your note-taking guide. So let's talk about what's new in CERS. We're always in a continuous cycle of improvement with our systems, and CERS is no exception. We listen and collect feedback from LEA staff at various presentations and trainings, and we prioritize CERS enhancement development based on the needs and the demand. I'm happy to share these new recent enhancements. First, student enrollment updates. During this last school year, we completed the much needed ability to update student enrollment to show newly transferred students in CERS, so LEAs can see assessment results from prior test administrations after enrolling a student in CalPADS. And this past April, Writing Extended Response, WER condition codes were added to the individual student reports in CERS. These are codes that give educators more information about student writing in full right responses in English language arts performance tests. If a student scores a 0 in one of the 3 writing dimensions, that score displays as with a WER condition code, identifying the reason for that score of a 0. And here are some CERS enhancements that are coming soon or in the works for this school year. Right now, we're putting on the final touches on adding Lexile quantile measures for summative ELA and math, and for the ICAs, the interim comprehensive assessments in CERS. These reports will provide additional measures for students' abilities in reading and mathematics. And we're also excited about seeing some added filters for selecting assessment results. The system loads the current assessment administered, and then an assessment list appears after selecting to add more assessments. Right now, all of the assessments that are administered are displayed alphabetically, and that can become a very lengthy list at times. So we are adding filters for finding assessments so that they are grouped using new filters. Finding assessments will be quicker with this enhancement as it's implemented. Also, we're looking at ways to streamline the management of student groups. We have received feedback from LEAs asking for ways to edit student groups within CERS. So in response to this feedback, the CDE is working with Smarter Balance to see when, where, and how we can improve the ability for administrators to create, modify, and troubleshoot student groups within CERS. In addition, we will be creating some options for the way administrators do school and district reports, exports. Again, through our communication with LEAs, we realize that school and district reports can be a large file, and sometimes it's too large. So we are exploring ways for LEAs to tailor those exports by having the ability to select the assessment type for creating school and district exports. And in another enhancement, we are working with Smarter to add a school year filter for administrators on the home page to make finding more results more efficient, reducing the number of selections an LEA has to make before getting the data they need. The CDE will announce these CERS enhancements as they go into effect in the weekly Assessment Spotlight email. Be sure to check the Assessment Spotlight for these announcements. And a quick reminder that the Student Information System, or SIS, integration feature with CERS continues to be available for LEAs for creating and updating student groups. This feature allows LEAs to eliminate the need to manually create student rosters for teachers, and it can be a big time saver. For example, large LEAs find the automated creation and update of student rosters for teachers a huge benefit, as class lists often change throughout the year. LEAs that are interested in this feature will need to contact their SIS vendors to begin this process. The CDE held information sessions for SIS vendors when this feature was first being deployed. There are links in your note-taking guide for more information on the SIS to CERS integration process, including a link to a list of SIS vendors and the status of their SIS to CERS integration. ETS is currently in contact with vendors and will be updating the website as they add more SIS vendors to the list. I do want to note that SIS to CERS integration for uploading student groups is completely optional. The manual process of uploading files for student rostering remains available for all LEAs at all times. And now I will turn it over to Felicia, who will present some professional development opportunities and resources available.
Thank you, Tammy. Now that you have received a basic overview of CERS and have a sneak peek into the new exciting features available in CERS, we are going to share some of the upcoming professional development opportunities available to support site coordinators, administrators, and teachers in the use of CERS. The CDE has partnered with the Sacramento County Office of Education to provide a new training for this school year, the Introduction to CERS trainings, which kicked off this summer with a few sessions in July and August. These trainings are led by LEA staff who are super users of CERS. This training is designed to have a separate session for coordinators and administrators and another session for teachers. We have one more training remaining for the Introduction to CERS for LEA coordinators and administrators. This training is being held on October 26, 2022 from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This online training supports the implementation of CERS and is designed for individuals who have been assigned a CERS administrator role, such as the LEA CAASPP coordinators. Each session will include a section on managing user access to CERS and an optional lab on rostering students to teachers. We also have another training opportunity available for teachers, which is the Introduction to CERS for Teachers. This training is being held on October 13th, 2022, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. and available again on November 1st, 2022. This online training is for teachers. Session attendees will learn how to access individual and group state assessment results, how to customize student groups, and how to find the links in CERS for resources to support classroom instruction and tools for teachers. If you do not have an opportunity to attend one of these live facilitated sessions, both sessions offered in the summer were recorded and will soon be available on the CAASPP.org and ELPAC.org past training opportunities and materials page. In the spring, we will offer additional CERS training sessions as assessment results become available in CERS. Last week, you may have watched the presentation with my colleagues that mentioned these interim informative assessment training opportunities, which provide some information about CERS. The interim informative assessment training series for teachers partnered with ETS and West Ed is another professional development opportunity that kicked off in July. This online training series is designed to help participants learn more about formative assessment resources and the Smarter Balanced interim assessments offered to teachers. This training series offers detailed training modules, which are approximately 3 hours long. These modules will be offered through November 2022. Now let's take a closer look at what each module has to offer. Module 1 focuses on the formative assessment process and tools for teachers website. Module 2 focuses on the Smarter Balanced interim assessments and also discusses using CERS to access interim assessment results. And Module 3 will go over the hand scoring of interim assessments. It is important to know that interim assessment results will appear in CERS only after any required hand scoring is completed. Remember, there are multiple opportunities to attend these trainings this fall, and each module is designed to be independent of the others, so educators can pick and choose which modules they attend. The registration link for the Interim and Formative Assessment Training Series is in your note-taking guide, and registration is now open for fall sessions. The last professional opportunity we wanted to make sure you are aware of is the California Assessment Conference, CAC. This conference will occur in person October 18th through 20th in Riverside, California. The CAC is intended for California educators and will feature some great sessions. The interim assessment session and the lab session will go over interim assessment results that display in CERS. And be sure to check out the CERS one-on-one session with the lab offered at the conference. This conference includes sessions where staff from LEAs share their practices, and it is an exciting time where we usually see some LEAs sharing how they use assessment data from CERS to plan teaching and learning in their LEA. As we are approaching the end of our presentation, we would like to highlight some of the valuable resources available on the CERS resources webpage, available on CAASPP.org and ELPAC.org. First up, we have the CERS user guide. This user guide describes the features of CERS and provides detailed instructions. It is in HTML format like many of our other user guides, which allows for easy searching for content. And there are also some very useful videos available, which gives more information about CERS. Earlier in this presentation, my colleague Tammy showed a segment of the Understanding CERS video that demonstrates some of the basic navigation features of CERS. The next resource we want to mention is the Creating Groups in CERS video, which demonstrates how to create student groups to allow educators to see student individual and group results. Let's not forget about the CERS Sandbox flyer. This is where you will find information on how to access the sandbox for exploration of CERS in a non-secure environment. Now, I am going to hand off to my colleague, Tammy.
Thank you, Felicia. Sometimes we get a lot of questions about how to stay up to date with the latest information about CERS and other assessment-related topics. Here are a few recommendations. You can check your emails for emails from California Outreach Communications. Coordinators receive important updates about system releases, downtimes, any general updates or trainings through emails from California Outreach. For instance, an email about upcoming CERS trainings went out on May 2nd. You can also subscribe to the Assessment Spotlight weekly email for various kinds of general assessment updates and information. And be sure to check out the upcoming trainings tab on ELPAC.org and CAASPP.org for the latest workshops and trainings offered by the CDE. Links to these are in your note-taking guide. And with that, we'd like to thank you for attending our session to learn more about CERS. We'll wrap it up by taking us through some of the key takeaways. First, don't forget that CERS is our one-stop shop for individual and aggregate results for state assessments, including the summative and interim assessments. There's a CERS sandbox that's publicly available for training LEA staff. And there are upcoming training opportunities to learn more about CERS. And as I mentioned, you can stay up to date with information from California Outreach and Assessment Spotlight emails. That concludes our presentation today and takes us to our time set aside for Q&A. Now let's take a look at our Q&A and see what questions we have. First, I see a question about the ability to see special ed information, and I'll ask Jessica if she can answer that question for us.
Sure, Tammy, thank you. And thank you to you and Felicia for today's update and overview of CERS. I have a number of questions here. Many of the questions are more technical in nature. If we don't have time to get through all of the questions, I want to just encourage you to attend one of the upcoming CERS trainings this fall. As mentioned, there is a session specifically intended for test coordinators and administrators, and a session designed specifically for teacher users of CERS. So if we don't get to your question today, please attend the training, or always feel free to reach out to our office at the CDE. But yes, you're right. We have a number of inquiries regarding additional advanced filters within the reporting system, and some more specific to special education status. So under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, personally identifiable information about students can only be shared or redisclosed for specific purposes. So filters such as special education status for students is not included in CERS. I do want to remind you, though, that there is the option for teachers to create customized groups from the students that are assigned to them in CERS, but preset filters such as special education status are not in CERS. I'll go ahead, Tammy, if you don't mind, just there are a few more questions I'll respond to, and then turn it back over to you. There's a question about when the 2021-2022 student data will be available in CERS for all of the CAASPP assessments. Currently, CERS contains the 2021-2022 summative assessment results for ELA, math, and the California Science Test. The California Spanish assessment results for 21-22 are expected to be available in CERS on September 7th. And then the CAA for Science results are expected to be available in CERS on November 8th. We received another question asking why there's not claim information available for the 2021 and the 2022 Smarter Balanced summative assessments in CERS. For those two particular school years, the state did use an adjusted blueprint for the Smarter Balanced summative assessments. And as a result, there's a reduced number of test questions associated with that form. So claim results are not available either in CERS or in individual student score reports. Now, for groups of 30 or more, aggregate claim results are available on the test results for California's assessments website. That's our public website where we report aggregate results. And there's a question about getting, oh, sorry, Tammy, go ahead. Oh, okay, yeah, there's a question asking about the meaning of some of the column headings in the template for the student download in CERS. And for those details, we would refer you over to the CERS user guide, which provides descriptions of those column headings. With that, Tammy, I'll turn it over to you.
There's a lot of questions about uploading students and assigning students and how often should we update our students in CERS. And I would, as Jessica just mentioned, I would encourage you to sign up to the Introduction to CERS series. There's one for coordinators, and then there's an Introduction to CERS for teachers also. So you're going to find more recommendations about when and how to do these things. A lot of people make decisions locally. For instance, it is the administrators that assign students to teachers, and teachers can see student results by who is assigned to them. And so seeing those student groups and getting into CERS, that access is provided by coordinators and administrators. So there's a key role there if you are an assessment coordinator or administrator, because you'll be setting up access and which students people will see in CERS. So those trainings will go over that process, and they're a hit. A lot of people are attending them and finding the information useful. So another one is, can teachers see their CAASPP scores in CERS or TOMS, or can only coordinators see schools for the school site? So CERS allows teachers to see the groups that are assigned to them. So whatever groups are assigned to them, that's what they're going to see. When administrators log in, it depends on their role. They will see, a site level administrator is going to see their site, and a district level administrator will see their district. So TOMS roles are connected to CERS and what a user can see when they log in. How can teachers get a login for CERS? As I said, it's tied to your TOMS role. So when teachers log in, they use their TOMS information. And when they get into CERS, they will see links to the student groups that are assigned to them. All right, we would like to thank you for attending this session and submitting your questions. Don't forget about those trainings that are available, and I will turn it back over to Amy for the rest of this AIM session.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Tammy and Jessica and Felicia. There was a lot of great information there. So last but definitely not least for our whole series, please give a warm welcome to Cindy Kazanis, Director of Analysis, Measurement, and Accountability Reporting Division, and Kimberly Muntank, Administrator for the Accountability Development and Policy Analysis Unit, to share what's new in the world of accountability. Take it away, Cindy and Kimberly.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to join everybody today. We're really delighted to continue to be a part of this series and appreciate the assessment division coordinating this conversation today. We have, as you can see in the download, a lot of things to cover on our agenda today. First, we're going to be talking, we're going to spend a lot of time today, rather, on the 2022 and the California School Dashboard. We also have a piece about the California Department of Education, or the CDE, and our efforts this year to help you. And we're calling it, we're here to help you and learn about and understand accountability. We also are going to talk about the future of the dashboard, the School Accountability and Reporting, or SARC, piece of things, because these all interrelate, as well as how to contact and reach us and questions that you may have today. Our team has spent a lot of time up front getting this information available, and you're going to hear about some things that are brand new today. So I do consider this our official kickoff to 2022 and the California School Dashboard. And I just wanted to thank the team, and Kim and Betty and Justin and Catherine and others that are here from AMARD that have really done a huge effort to really move up a lot of our communications, and in an effort to help you early, because we know many of you may be new to these roles, and we have been 2 years without a full dashboard. And so we are here to help, and we're excited to share some information with you today. With that, I will turn it over to Kim.
Thank you so much, Cindy, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here today to share an update on accountability. So let's dive right into what's happening on with updates on the 2022 and the California School Dashboard. So as you can see in your note-taking guide on the annual summary of dashboard indicators, since the first release of the first dashboard in 2017, we've had a real different mix of indicators available each year, and 2022 is going to be no different. Now, when you look at that annual summary of dashboard indicators, you might start asking, well, what's new this year? Well, this year will be unique, as we will only be reporting status for each of the state indicators in 2022. Let's compare the 2021 and 22 dashboards in those final two columns of the chart. So last year in 2021, the dashboard only had local indicators reported. This year, we will report both local indicators and status only, with the exception of the college/career indicator, or CCI. Now, we get a lot of questions about, well, why has the dashboard looked different in recent years? Specifically, Assembly Bill 130 laid out the design and all of the parameters for the state indicators on the 2021 dashboard and required that we only use the current performance year data for the 2022 dashboard, which in this case is data from the 2021-22 school year. Well, with the dashboard looking different this year, we just want to take some time out right now to acknowledge that we know we are not back to normal. Let me put that in quotes because we hear that phrase a lot. And guess what? We weren't back to normal last year either. So the 2021-22 school year was really the first year for a full return to the classroom across the state of California. Additionally, it was the first year that many schools made a return to CAASPP testing across the board. And then on top of this, as Cindy already alluded to, we know that there are many new faces at schools and districts, both among students, you're seeing new students in your classrooms, and among staff. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge this, and we've heard it from you in the field time and time again. And that's really why we're stepping up everything here to help support you in this effort. The accountability data that we're going to be sharing and presenting on the California School Dashboard from 2020-21 is going to shine a light on what is going on in LEAs and schools. But that's not the only source of information that we have, and we want to emphasize this. Additional local data and future years of data are going to help us develop the full picture of what's been going on for the last few years. And we know we're not going to have everything available and see everything that's captured. The dashboard's not going to capture everything that's going on right now. So please be cognizant of that as we think about it moving forward, and utilize all of your local data that you have at the ready to start describing what's been going on and fill out your full picture of how things are going. Now, we've definitely encountered some curves in the road back to accountability in 2022. We want to be clear that AMARD is committed to working with all of our partners at the California Department of Education to produce the 2022 dashboard in every way, shape, or form. And we want to begin by stating exactly that we understand that there have been issues that have been faced by the field due to updates with CalPADS this past spring and summer. Now, all of this week, and as of this week, CalPADS end of year submission window has been extended through September 9th of 2022 to provide 2 additional weeks for LEAs to certify their 2022 data. We will update you on any changes that happen within either of those processes, and we are committed to letting you know and being fully transparent about what is going on with the dashboard and data collection as we move forward through this submission window, through all of our other submission windows as well. So, Kim, you shared all of this, but really, what can I expect from the 2022 dashboard this year? Well, first of all, and you guys have the very first glimpse of this, it's going to look different. And additionally, there's going to be some updates and changes, but for the most part, it's going to mostly stay the same. Now, we said it's going to look different, but what does that actually mean? Well, you are the first people to see that there is going to be a different graphic on the dashboard for status. Since we only have current year data status to be able to report on the dashboard, we decided to go and create a unique way to display status only. Therefore, our status graphics will show up as graphics that resemble cell phone bars, and there will be a single color available for all of the status levels. So as you can see represented, we have very low, low, medium, high, very high. And we will note that very low, these labels will change and be in reverse for both the suspension and chronic absenteeism indicator. You will also not see change anywhere on the dashboard. That's because our change metric equals the improvement or lack of improvement from the prior year. We're not allowed to use prior year data, therefore, there is no change visible on the dashboard. And with no change, That means that there will be no indicator colors on the dashboard. No dials, no red, orange, yellow, green, or blue, but you will see one color though. And that is the color purple, and it's bold brightness right here. And this is what the dashboard is going to look like all over. And you will see baseball cards that look very purple and graphics that look purple. So it's going to be a very, very purple dashboard. As for how this is going to affect what you see when it comes to accountability, here's an example of what reporting for 11 to 29 students will look like. You're going to see that the status graphic is grayed out. The status report is reported, as you can see here, 10.4 points above standard for an English language arts or math academic indicator, for example. However, it'll be the status level of very low to very high will be noted in the downloadable files and not present in that graphic. You'll only see it in the downloadable files. That's going to signal to you that the LEA or school or student group is not being held accountable in this way. So grayed out graphic, not being held accountable. When the dashboard's reporting for fewer than 11 students, you will see that no status level is reported. Unlike in the previous graphic, there's also no status reported and no status level in the downloadable file as well. This will also signal that the LEA or school in the student group is not being held accountable. Our 2022 equity report will also be very purple. Since we don't have colors, we're going to move forward with summarizing the status within the equity report. Here you'll be able to see the number of student groups that receive very low, low, medium, high, and very high. And again, those will be reversed as we need to for our suspension and chronic absenteeism indicators. And the final new item to review for the SERS dashboard are what state indicators will be available in the 2022 dashboard. The following will be represented as status-only indicators: our academic indicators for both English language arts and math, suspension rate, chronic absenteeism, graduation rate, and the English learner progress indicator. There will be, as I referenced before, no CCI reported on the 2022 dashboard. CAASPP testing was optional during the 2020-21 school year, and its results are used to make many determinations about a student's college career preparation. So with the absence of that testing, we will resume the CCI with status-only reporting on the 2023 dashboard. Now, there's also updates and changes to our dashboard, so let's walk you through each of those. We'll start with our updated academic indicator participation rate penalty. California updated this penalty back in 2020 due to a request from the Department of Education, or ED. This change increased the penalty on schools, districts, and student groups that did not meet a minimum 95% participation rate. Missing the 95% participation rate with the new penalty means that loss scores are assigned at the school, district, and/or student group level to each student needed to bring up the participation rate to 95%. Obviously, since we did not have full state testing in the 2019-20 school year, we didn't have the opportunity to impose this penalty. We haven't had a dashboard for 2 years. Therefore, the 2022 dashboard will be the first time you will see this incorporated into accountability. Next, we have updated our district of residence rules. This is another rule that was slated to take place in 2020 that's been delayed by 2 years. The district of residence is also referred to as the District of Special Education Accountability. And through 2019, it only applied on the academic indicator. Now, in 2022 and beyond, it will apply to all state indicators. And there are charts to reference for this information in your note-taking guide. Essentially, what it comes down to is that all students who receive services outside of their district, because their district places them into other opportunities, all of their information will follow them back to their district of special education accountability or district of residence. Finally, we do have an update on our Dashboard Alternative School Status or DAS program. We received a letter way back from the Department of Education, or ED, in February of 2022 that informed us that no modified methods would be allowed for use within ESSA. We submitted a waiver, and the State Board of Education will discuss any replies to the submitted waiver at their September board meeting, along with the status of our DAS program and how we will move forward with ESSA for DAS schools. However, even with any decision that the state board makes, the CDE remains committed to the value of the modified metrics and will calculate and display the one-year graduation rate in 2022 and beyond. Now, we've walked you through how the dashboard is going to look different, and now there's some updates to some various rules, but now we're going to cover how it will mostly stay the same. We plan to have data released to LEAs for private preview in late fall, as we do prior to each dashboard release. Additionally, our anticipated date for the dashboard release this year is December of 2022. Both state and federal support determinations are still going to use dashboard indicators. ESSA for both ATSI and CSI are going to use the following criteria to make determinations. We'll start with identifying all schools that have all indicators with the lowest status, then move to all indicators with schools with the lowest status, but one indicator of any other status, 5 or more indicators where a majority are at the lowest status, and then finally all indicators in the lowest 2 statuses. We reference this as lowest status instead of saying very low because our suspension and chronic indicators, the lowest status for them is very high. So we want to make sure we're clear in describing how you qualify for that using our status instead of colors. The LCF criteria is going to be discussed at the upcoming State Board of Education meeting in September, so stay tuned for that. Now, as always, you are going to find lots of CDE support for the dashboard. We're going to be going into details of the 2022 Dashboard Toolkit in just a few moments, which has helpful webinars, flyers for multiple audiences, FAQs, and more. But we just want to remind you, especially at this point, that we're always just an email away at our new email address, dashboard@cde.ca.gov. Don't worry, the old email address of aau@cde.ca.gov still works. So if you haven't updated your email addresses, it'll still go through. But please spread the word about our new, more encompassing email address that will hit more programs and accountability issues than ever before. So now let's take some time to walk through some of these available resources that I promised before, as CDE is here to help you learn about and understand accountability. So how directly can we help you? Well, we have prepared multiple resources to set you up for success this year, including a dashboard toolkit, redesigned accountability web pages, additional reports on dashboard information, and indicator webinars. Now, as Cindy stated at the very beginning of this, we've never presented information in August before, and that's what we're doing today. We are sharing all of this information with you long before the dashboard comes to you in previews and long before it's published, so that we can iterate and possibly create more resources for your use. So if at the end of this presentation, there are still unanswered questions, send them our way, and maybe you'll see a flyer created just for you. Let's start by digging into this 2022 Dashboard Toolkit, which was created specifically with you in mind. We've been hearing from the field for the past 2 years about what they need, and we've created tools and resources that will be accessible to general audiences, parents and new users, as well as experienced users at schools and LEAs. So let's start by looking at those resources for general audiences that we've prepared for the 2022 Dashboard Toolkit. First, we have created a dashboard indicator flyer for each and every one of our indicators. You will have a flyer available that will explain the ins and outs of the academic indicators, the academic participation rate, the graduation rate indicator, chronic absenteeism indicator, suspension rate indicator, the English Learner Progress Indicator, or ELPI, and the ELPI participation rate. You're going to see exactly how the 2022 dashboard looks unique and how each of these indicators are calculated with detailed information as well as fun graphics, all in a very purple flyer format. For the 2022 dashboard toolkit, we've also created resources for parents and new users. So if you've ever wondered what is the dashboard and what will be reported in 2022, we have a Getting to Know the 2022 dashboard flyer at the ready for you to share with parents and new users. If you've wondered what state indicators are reported on the 2022 dashboard, because you haven't been here for the last 30 minutes where I've been talking about them, there's a Getting to Know You measures flyer that explains each one of these in detail to a new user. If you've wondered, how do I view and interpret my local school and/or district dashboard reports? We have a how to view the performance on the 2022 dashboard on our toolkit website right to download and print out for everyone that you need to share with. If you've wondered, is there a way to compare multiple school results on the dashboard? We have a how to compare schools flyer. This one is great to share at school meetings and other things when you have concerned parents asking this exact question. Well, how is performance reported in 2022 dashboard? People are asking everywhere. Well, we have a reporting current year data only flyer so that you can explain easily and quickly to others how status is the only thing being shared on the dashboard and why it's different this year. If you have people asking how I can identify achievement gaps among student groups on the dashboard, we have an Exploring the Equity Reports flyer that will walk through in detail how you use the equity reports on the front page of the dashboard to see how student groups are performing. Finally, we've prepared resources for schools and LEAs specifically within our 2022 dashboard toolkit that ask a little more detailed questions. For instance, what's the status of the DAS program? We have a current status of the DAS program flyer ready and available to be updated as developments happen with the state board. For questions on who is included in the English Learner student group, which gets a little confusing across the different indicators, we have a Who is an EL flyer available for printout for you. And finally, if you're wondering who's accountable for students receiving special education services at a school outside of their home district, we just walked through that rule change. And so we've presented a District of Residence flyer to help clarify that question for anyone who needs to know that information. If you're looking for what changes to the academic participation rate penalty for 2022 dashboard, and you're wondering how to explain this to someone, perhaps who hasn't looked at the dashboard in a while, we have an information on the participation rate flyer. Now, we've also set out to create a series of webinars to learn more information on the 2022 dashboard, specifically for LEAs and schools. Our 2022 dashboard AMARD webinar fall series will debut shortly, and we will have opportunities to learn basics about each of the indicators, walk through a couple of the more detailed rules, but especially provide time for your questions. So these are opportunities that we will make available to you, again, long before the presentation of our dashboard data late this fall, where you can get all of your questions answered early and often. And then finally, with the debut of the dashboard, we will add to our 2022 dashboard toolkit. How should we talk about data on the 2022 dashboard with a 2022 dashboard talking points document? This is going to be your key into providing words around what's going on with the dashboard. Some of us sometimes see things that are happening in one place and not across the entire state. We are committed to creating some talking points to help you, right as the dashboard goes live, understand what you're seeing, patterns and trends across the state, and how you can speak to parents and other audiences, including your school boards, about what is going on and what you see on your dashboard. Now, for our frequently asked questions section, I am going to bring in a teammate, and Catherine Morrissey is going to help me join through and walk through some of these wonderful questions that some of you have already shared with us. So if your question is not answered in the FAQs today, please go ahead and submit it so that we can answer it at the end of the presentation.
Great. So how can I tell if my school or LEA is going to be held accountable without a color?
Well, as we've gone through in 2022, performance equals status, and therefore a purple-filled graphic is going to equal accountability. You can see here in this example of a graduation rate indicator, if you can see a purple graphic with a label underneath, like very high, you know that your school or district or student group is going to be held accountable because it actually does have a color. The color is purple this year.
Do charter schools qualify for DA CSI in 2022?
No, charter schools do not qualify for either differentiated assistance or comprehensive support because of the rules that were changed a couple of years ago in legislation. However, differentiated assistance and comprehensive support does resume for charter schools in 2023.
Why is the 2022 dashboard based on status only?
As I explained earlier in the presentation, AB 130 gave us the rules on how we need to work and operate the dashboard for both 2021 and 2022. Since we are limited from AB 130 to only using 1 year of data, that means we can only display status only and no change.
What are the additional reports?
Additional reports are expanded information from the dashboard. And actually, the impetus of many of these additional results are questions from that LEAs have had over the years, wanting to see additional nuances and comparisons across districts and across their own district and across schools to see what's going on. We can't fit all of that into a nice, brief, clean report like the dashboard. However, CDE has created many additional reports to provide that nuance and context for you. So next time you're on the dashboard, click on the upper right corner for additional reports and see what is offered for your school or LEA.
Will cut scores be reset for the 2022 dashboard?
No, cut scores will not be reset for the 2022 dashboard. Therefore, looking at the 2019 dashboard, and if you look at the status levels and all of the cut scores for each of those status levels, those are what will be applied to the 2022 dashboard determinations for status.
Which state indicators will be on the 2022 dashboard?
As we said before, it's going to be limited to the academic indicator, or for ELA and math, the graduation rate indicator, the English learner progress indicator, or ELPAC, the suspension rate indicator, and the chronic absenteeism indicator.
Will there be a private preview for the 2022 dashboard?
Yes, there will be. We will make sure that all of the indicators go through LEA private preview prior to their publication on the dashboard.
Will a technical guide be released this year? And if so, when?
Yes, there will be. We anticipate that the technical guide will be released closer to the publication of the full dashboard. It will be, as always, your guide and Bible, really truly for all things dashboard. It's very intense and has a lot of detailed rules. So we like to present and publish this when the dashboard comes out to make sure it's inclusive of everything that's gone into calculating the dashboard that year.
Will local indicators be reported on the 2022 dashboard?
Yes, they will be, just as they were on the 2021 dashboard.
When should local indicators be submitted to the dashboard?
You will want to submit your local indicators by the deadline of September 30th, 2022 at 5 p.m. And while there are no brownie points for getting in early, that would be great if you do.
And finally, are the accountability coordinators the same as the dashboard coordinators?
No, accountability coordinators and dashboard coordinators each have a unique role to play. Dashboard coordinators are the coordinators that enter in the local indicator information. Accountability coordinators, on the other hand, are those who receive passwords to private previews on our dashboard. So it might be the same person in your district. However, they do need to make sure that they're signed up and have roles for both as an accountability coordinator and as a dashboard coordinator, because every LEA needs both of them. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Betty Mura from our ADPOW team to go through our other resources that we have created.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here today, and it's nice to be able to share some new information and resources with you. So first up, it's all about our redesigned web pages. We are very pleased to announce that the California School Dashboard and System of Support web pages have a new look. It's truly a revamp from what we've had before, and I don't have enough time to cover everything about the new pages, but I did want to mention a few things. The landing page now has anchor links at the top to highlight all of the information that's accessible to you. There is also a new dashboard resources page that you can access directly from the landing page. And this resources page has general information that are great for parents and for those who are new to the dashboard world. It contains the technical information for those who want to access the business rules and calculation formulas that we use to produce each state indicator. Now, within resources, there's also a tab called Dashboard Measures, which I think you're really going to like. You will find dedicated web pages for each state indicator. So for those of you who are familiar with our old web pages, you know that you had to click about 5 or 6 times in different areas to access all the information that you need for, say, suspension rate, graduation rate, academic indicators. But now we have a dedicated page for each state indicator, and you can access everything about that indicator in just one click. So we're really hoping that you find this new redesign helpful to you. Some of the materials posted right now may reflect prior year information, but we will be filling these out with the 2022 documents as we move forward in the fall. So the note-taking guide does contain the link to the landing page. All right, so next up is the additional reports and tentative timeline. So as you heard earlier from Kim, the additional reports contain information beyond what is reported on the dashboard. So it's a great tool for those who really want to dig into the data. And you can also access the additional reports from our new web pages. Now, as you can see here on this table, it identifies each report title and the tentative release date. So many of these reports will be released when the 2022 dashboard goes live. So for instance, we will continue to offer the academic report along with the participation rate information. This will be published when the 2022 dashboard is released. We'll also be offering a new report, the one for the English Learner Progress Indicator, or the ELPI, also containing participation rate information. And this will be published when the 22 dashboard is released. Because we're only reporting out status this year, as Kim mentioned, the 5x5 additional reports, right, which were available for you in the past to identify which performance color you received, will now be a 1x5 additional report. And so that's going to help identify for you which status level all of your student groups performed at Or if you're an LEA, then it'll help identify which status level all of your schools performed at. This report will also go live with the 2022 dashboard release. We'll also continue with the student group reports, and this is a one-stop shop to see how all of your student groups performed across all of the state indicators. And this may be very helpful to you in regards to DA or differentiated assistance identification, because as you know, the eligibility criteria are based on student group performance. This report also published with the 2022 dashboard release. And then we have the CCI measures report. Now, although we're not going to be reporting out a CCI in the 22 dashboard, we will be reporting out the data for each of the measures in this report, much like we did last year in 2021. This report is going to be released in the spring of 2023. And finally, the district charter school performance by county report. So this gives you a great regional county level overview of how all of your districts in the county or all of the charter schools in your county perform on each state indicator. So for all of our friends out there in county offices of education, you don't have to print out every district's dashboard report. All you need to do is go to this report. It's a one snapshot overview of how all districts or all charter schools performed county-wide. This report is going to be released in the spring of 2023. Now, I did want to note that we're still very much in the design phase for some of these reports, especially given that we're only reporting out status this year. We did bring some of these reports out for feedback to some of our interest groups, just to make sure that we were getting you the reports that you need. So stay tuned. All right, so now how do you help your LEA or school be a dashboard superstar? Well, there's three key components. Be continually informed about CAASPP, work on getting everything you need to submit your LCAP and local indicators, and ensure that your LEA has at least one accountability coordinator. So what do I mean by all this? Okay, first off, CAASPP. Now, remember that a lot of the data that we use to produce the state indicators are taken from CAASPP, specifically the certified end of year data. So make sure that you're continually connected to the latest information from the CAASPP office. So very recently, and I want to say Tuesday, your CAASPP LEA admin should have received Flash 234 along with the weekly update informing that the end of the year deadline has been extended to September 9. So now you know that you have until September 9 to confirm that the data you're submitting in CAASPP looks accurate to you. So be sure to check on all the data submitted within your EOI submissions. You know, every year we get contacted by LEAs saying that their data doesn't look accurate on the dashboard because they had their glitch in a data submission, and could we rerun their data with their new updates? And unfortunately, if the end of year deadline has passed, it's too late and we're not able to help. So to assist you, we did release yesterday our annual handbook that shows the connection between CAASPP to the dashboard. Your CAASPP LEA admins have access to specific CAASPP reports that you can run and verify if the data reflects your student population. And the handbook identifies which CAASPP reports to run. It's filled with print screens and step-by-step instructions. I would just encourage you just to run the report so you can just easily identify, you know, if you're expecting 100 students to graduate with a diploma for the class of 2022, but then when you run the CAASPP reports, you only see 5 students with a diploma, that's an automatic red flag warning to you, right? So you have time right now to go into CAASPP, correct that before September 9 and before we use the data for the dashboard. So use the dashboard handbook to help you. And just one last thing about that, we did send out an email yesterday about the handbook release to accountability coordinators and CAASPP LEA administrators. It will also be shared with dashboard coordinators. All right, and the second component is LCAP and local indicators. Make sure that you get all the pieces of information and data that you need for LCAP for approval. Don't forget to register a dashboard coordinator for your site. Kim has already talked about the role, the difference between accountability coordinators and dashboard coordinators. Our colleagues in the local agency and system of support office recently reset their dashboard coordinator database. So that means you can begin registering a new dashboard coordinator starting on August 22. So, and as mentioned earlier, be sure to have your dashboard coordinator enter your local indicator data by September 30, 2022 at 5 p.m. Okay, accountability coordinator sign up. So being an accountability coordinator is the only way to receive the latest information from us about the dashboard and accountability. As of right now, we only see 60% of LEAs and charter schools have signed up. So we are not going to reset our listserv in our database. We are going to continue using our coordinator list that we have right now, and we will reset next year. So what does that mean? That means that if your LEA does not have anyone signed up, we encourage you to get someone signed up so you don't miss important emails from us. You can sign up at accountabilitylistserv.org. Check out the FAQs at the top right. It will tell you what controls you have, like adding a new coordinator, removing a coordinator, updating your contact information, and what you can expect when you newly sign on, and so on. All right, and finally, the private preview data checks. So this is another reason why you should have an accountability coordinator at your site, because accountability coordinators will be notified of preview dates and information. These are the individuals who received the secret password to access the dashboard preview site. And during the private preview, we do hope that you conduct data checks, and be sure to contact us if you have any questions. So that concludes my section. So Cindy, I'm going to pass it on to you. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Betty. A big shout out to Betty and to Derek, who helped to redesign those web pages. That was a huge effort. And I think she may have mentioned this, but in case you didn't hear it, there's also information on each of those individual state indicator web pages about what's to come. So those of you that like to know about things that may be coming up to be put on the college career indicator or something else, we have sort of the future of each of the indicators. If it's relevant. There's certain indicators that just are never going to change, I think. So I'm here to talk about the future of the dashboard. And before I get into that, I just wanted to remind the participants that there is a Google form. Amy has put it in the chat probably a dozen times already, but in case you've missed her chat, there is a way to do Q&As through that. She just put it in there again. So that's how we're going to take questions in just a little bit of time. So in thinking about what's going to be on the dashboard and the future dashboard reporting, we have put together this handy slide. You see 5 columns listed, and the first column is state indicators, followed by the 2022 dashboard, 2023 dashboard, and 2024 dashboard. And so each of the state indicators are listed, beginning with academic, suspension, chronic absenteeism, graduation rate, college career indicator, and the English Learner Progress Indicator, or ELPI. So for the 2022 dashboard, for academic, suspension, chronic, grad rate, and ELPI, we will see status only. You will see on this column, there is one, the one that has changed, or the one that is different is the college career indicator, which says N/A, because it's not applicable. We have heard from Kim and others that the college career indicator is taking a break this year. We'll still report out on data through other means, but it is not going to be reported on the baseball card because of a lack of data from the prior year. For the 2023 dashboard column, we will see colors reported for the academic indicator, the suspension rate indicator, the chronic absenteeism indicator, graduation rate, and the ELPI. Again, the college career indicator is where we see something different. We're only going to have status only because that's the first time we're going to be able to get the full set of 11th graders who are 11th graders, just finished up at their 11th grade year, rather, this past school year. We will see their scores in the dashboard for them. They are now, of course, going to be seniors. They're graduating in 2023. So that's how we'll pick up status. And for the 2024 dashboard, that final column, we see colors reported in every single row. So we will catch up on all of our indicators for 2024. As far as future dashboard considerations, as I mentioned, I gave you a little highlight. If you were to look on the College Career Indicator report on our website, we have information about what additional or adding CCI measures, and specifically around civic engagement and industry certifications, which we've been talking about with the State Board of Education and with our program experts at the California Department of Education on how to first start collecting this information and then start reporting this information. We are also bringing to the State Board of Education a proposal around reporting for the first time for informational purposes, the California Science Test. And then finally, I know this one is dear to Kim's heart, the student growth model has been approved by the Board of Education. We are beginning, of course, to collect data, but it will be based on multiple years of data. So we will not see the student growth model on the dashboard for a couple of years. So keep that in mind as we do future, or rather the assessment division does future test administrations. Okay, for the 2021-2022 school accountability report card reporting, I wanted to go over the next couple of slides. The first being that the SARC technical redesign took place, and we are delighted to have San Joaquin County Office of Education as our partner in this. The SARC web application and the Find a SARC webpage have been redesigned. And this has been something that was a work in progress for a bit of time. So I'm here to remind you that this is a free electronic SARC template that is available if you decide to use it. We know that many of you have relationships with vendors, and you do pay for this, this service. So I just wanted to remind you that there is available a free electronic option from the state. That option allows for the Google translation for electronic SARCs to be translated into over 70 languages. So it is accessible to many because of that. And again, it's a free service from the department. For the 2021-2022 SARC, we have teacher tables that have been updated. So I'm going to go over a couple of different things in these next 2 or 3 slides about what is different on this year's template. And really, this isn't different. Rather, we have the teacher tables have been revised from the 1 year of data tables to 2 year data tables, because we will add a second year of teacher data. And of course, this information was just released, if you missed it, at the end of June for the first time. And so the department is now beginning with this past SARC, and the current SARC is doing reporting out of this information. So that is something to look at as we move along here. And for the 2021-2022 SARC, our local assessments. Of course, we spent a lot of time last year, and our assessments division especially, talking through the various options because of the challenges around the pandemic. And so those tables are no longer relevant for this current template for the SARC. And so we have removed the local assessment tables that were used during the COVID-19 pandemic. And for the 2021-2022 SARC, the final piece is the PFT, or the physical fitness test. And the PFT results, the change that you probably all know about, are now in percentage of students participating in each of the 5 fitness gram components. So that is a change from prior years. And with that, I'm happy to turn it back to Kim.
Thank you so much, Cindy. So we're going to end up with a nice reminder of how to contact and reach us. So as we said before, we do have a new email address, dashboard@cde.ca.gov. We hope it's catchy enough for all of you to remember. So please start passing the word and sharing that with all of your colleagues as a one-stop shop to get a hold of anything accountability related. And also, we want to let you know that we'll be begin to be a little bit more active on Twitter. So please reach out and follow us at our account @CDE Dashboard. There we'll provide updates on what's going on in accountability, as well as perhaps opportunities to see us presenting online or in person as the accountability season warms up. So we'll be able to share anything that's brand new. Additionally, we'll share out little tidbits about what's being updated on the website as we update it, and a little bit more informal opportunities to reach out and touch base on things that we're doing versus our big old accountability blast. So please, if you're on Twitter, look at us and please retweet us if you see anything interesting that might be interesting to your colleagues as well. And with that, we are going to jump into the Q&A, and I have it open and I see lots and lots of questions popping through. So I am going to actually look at Betty. Are you available to answer any questions real quick?
Yes, I am. Let me just get to the our Q&A worksheet here just for a quick second. So some of these questions have already been responded to, as Kim or I have gone through them, but we will repeat them, just in case it assists you. One of the questions is, will the college and career indicators be reported for 2022, similar to the way that they were in 2021, as a school dashboard additional reports and data? The answer to that is yes. The report for 2022 on the additional reports is going to look very similar, if not exact, to the 2021 CCI measures report. Another question here is, when will the technical guide be released? We do, Kim had mentioned this, but we do anticipate releasing that right around the time when the 2022 dashboard is released publicly. I will note, though, that in the past, we have tried to provide a draft to accountability coordinators during the preview period so that everybody can get access at least to somewhat up-to-date information. And so if that's possible, we will definitely be sharing that out during the private preview period. Okay, let's see here. The district of residence rule. So does the district of residence only apply to students with disabilities, or does it apply to alternative high schools administered by COEs? So keep in mind that this district of residence rule is applied to all students with disabilities, and it's a rule that's only applied at the LEA level. So all schools are held accountable for their students with disabilities. They're not being sent to another school, and another school is being held accountable for that student's data. So I would encourage you to review the District of Residence flyer, which is posted on our new 2022 Toolkit webpage. Let's see here. Is the deadline for the 2022 cohort data also September 9th, which is the CAASPP end of year deadline? The answer to that is yes. As always in prior years, the cohort deadline date is the same as the CAASPP EOI deadline date. So the cohort data deadline date for this year is also September 9. And then my last question that I see for the moment is it possible to release data for the newish career measures on the CCI in addition to the more established measures? So when we report out any of our data for the CCI, it's only the data that have been, or it's only for the measures that have been approved by the state board. So just keep in mind that whatever, we may be developing measures as we go along, and we do that with all of our work groups, but ultimately it is the state board that decides whether a particular measure should be included in the CCI or if it should not be included in the CCI. So only for those measures that have been approved by the state board, we do release it out in our additional reports. And we also release it out in our CERS report, which the acronym is escaping me right now, but that is a student level data file that we newly released and made available to accountability coordinators just this past year. So with that, Kim, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay.
Is you seeing anything?
I do. We've got a lot of questions coming in, and please note if you're submitting a question right now, please just make sure to include your email address, and then we'll be able to respond to you afterwards as well. So if we can't answer your question live, we'll make sure we get an answer to you. I'm going to go back to some questions from previous presentations that folks had asked around accountability that may not have been answered in previous sessions. So this question here about why do students who passed the CAASPP and HiSET not count as graduates for traditional high schools and only for DAS schools? And the reason behind that is that ESSA doesn't allow for those graduates to be counted within our four-year cohort graduation rate. So therefore, that's why we included them in the one-year graduation rate, but we were not able to include them in our four-year cohort rate. How do you enter your PFT scores into the SARC? So that data is, as all data, or most data is required within the SARC, there are certain elements that we can populate for you. And then there's other information that's populated by the LEA. The physical fitness test or PFT scores, those are provided by the LEA. So you're going to input those directly into your SARC, whether or not you use our e-template or you use your own vendor to do that. When will science scores be on the California dashboard? Well, Cindy already mentioned this, that the state board will be looking to discuss how they want to integrate the CAST scores into the accountability system and how those would show up on the dashboard in the near future. There's a question asking about what does status only mean? And we can easily revisit that right now. So because all of our dashboard indicators are based on two functions, status and change. Those are two separate calculations. And since we are not calculating a change this year on the dashboard, we're only going to be reporting status or the performance for this past year. So there is a flyer in the toolkit that can be referenced for this and clarifying this terminology to all of your stakeholders within your LEs and schools, as well as parents who might be going, what is this? Why does this look different? We've definitely created a flyer to help you out with that. Will the status cut points for the dashboard levels be modified? There's no plan this year to modify, as we said before, any of the status cut points for the dashboard for the 2022 dashboard. Please stay tuned to any state board meetings, as that is their function, and any changes that would need to happen would need to be presented to the board for formal approval within our accountability meetings. Will the dashboard flyers be available in languages other than English, specifically Spanish? So all of the dashboard indicator flyers that we have created for general audiences will be available in the top 7 languages. If you find anything that perhaps doesn't meet your needs or we're looking for something else, please just reach out to us and let us know. And then we can definitely keep it on our list to perhaps in the future translate that flyer also into additional top 7 languages if you find that would be helpful. I am scrolling. Which LCAP metric is negatively impacted by those who pass the CAASPP and leave high school early compared to their 4-year cohort peers? So that would be the indicators that would be affected by that are both the graduation rate indicator this year and then in future years, since the college career indicator is impacted by that as well. Since it's all graduates, we would see an impact in the CCI as well for that. Betty, do you want to hop back in and grab some of those questions?
Yeah, let's see here. So I have one person who went to our accountability listserv, so thank you so much. They're saying that I am unable to search for a school. Is there a way to find out if anyone has signed up for our LEA and who that person is? If you need help on this, please email us at dashboard@cde.ca.gov, and we can definitely help you. If you can take a look at the FAQs at the top right of that page, there are some ways to be able to see if you can sign up or see if you can identify a person who is signed up at your site. But if that's not helpful to you, we can definitely help you. So please email us. When are the data connected to local indicators due, and how do I submit them? The submission deadline date for local indicators is September 30th at 5 p.m. And keep in mind that local indicators are submitted by the dashboard coordinators. So if you need assistance with this, please contact lcff@cde.ca.gov. Okay, let's see here. Will the 95% participation rate apply to both CAASPP and ELPAC, or will ELPAC be held to the higher 100%? So the 95% participation rate applies, so the federal participation rate target applies to ELA and math. And so state law requires that 100% of students take the ELPAC. So different participation rate requirements for the two sets of assessments. Is the change to only purple a one-year thing because of lack of progress indicators, or a permanent change, and not a good change if permanent? So the 2022 dashboard is based on status for 1 year only, which Kim has covered, and it requires us to use a different format because we're using status only. So this is just the use of purples and the cell phone bars is just a one-time thing only. So next year, when we release the 2023 dashboard and moving forward, we will be back to the color gauges, you know, all the colors ranging from blue all the way down to red. Will the status cut points for dashboard levels be modified? That was also within our presentation. No, the cut scores will not be modified this year. Let's see. If the one-year graduation rate is reported, is that new method for calculating the grad? Is that the new method for calculating the grad rate indicator? No, according to the U.S. Department of Education and our ESSA state plan, we can only use the combined 4- and 5-year graduation rate for the graduation rate indicator for all schools. Okay, Kim, I'm going to pass it on to you in case you see anything.
And keep submitting. We see them popping up. So we have a few more minutes to go through some questions. How many priorities do LEAs need to be low in order to qualify for differentiated assistance? In the past, it was 2. Is it going to be the same this year? So the criteria for differentiated assistance across, is currently to be determined as far as what the criteria is used, such as since we don't have colors, and so that will be up at the September State Board meeting. But at this time, we do not anticipate that the priority qualification will be changing. However, stay tuned for the September State Board meeting. I don't think we anticipate that. I think we just anticipate that the criteria will change from colors to status levels, similar to the approved metrics for the ESSA state plan that the state board already visited. So I don't think we'll go into statute and change any of that work. Scroll through. I'm going to switch. Justin, would you be able to answer a couple of these lovely questions?
Yes, Kim, I would be happy to. Let me bring it up. Scroll all the way to the top. So the first question I have is regarding the 95% participation rate for a DAS school. It says, is the CD considering a fairer calculation for participation, given that we typically serve highly transient students and students with a history of attendance issues? First, I would like to say that the CDE, we have an LP work group. Our LP work group, the members are fantastic. They are experts, EL experts and practitioners statewide at different levels at the university, county, district, school level, and other EL groups. We are going to be visiting, working with them in 23 to evaluate the methodology of incorporation of the summative ELPAC participation rate into the LP next year and beyond. But please note that for DAS schools as well as non-DAS schools, that state law, as Betty had mentioned, does require all current students to be tested on the summative ELPAC every year during that window. So that is a requirement for all schools. Which students count for accountability purposes? Is it still CBEDS Day? Each indicator on the dashboard does have a specific set of rules for which the students are included in the numerator and the denominator. And this information is available in more detail in our dashboard technical guide. For example, the English Learner Progress Indicator, the ELPI, the numerator and the denominator are students who were present at a school or district during the testing window, which is February 1 to May 31st. Whereas in the chronic absenteeism, it looks at students throughout the school year. So for more information on how we count those students, visit our California school dashboard technical guide. Another question, if an LEA reclassified the English learner after February 1, when the summative ELPAC window opened, and did not administer the summative assessment to the student because they had already received a 4 on the prior administration, will these students be reflected as having not made progress on the ELPI? The student will not be included in either the numerator or the denominator for the ELPI as long as that EL student was reclassified prior to the ending of the testing window being May 31st. If that student was reclassified after May 31st, that student would count as having not tested at your school site during the testing window. So make sure that that EL students that meet the reclassification rate are updated immediately into your local student information system and CalPads. Next question. ELPAC has been required throughout COVID. So we have 2 years of data for the LP. Will the LP reported status and change? Why or why not? The LP is different from other state indicators because status is progress, because the LP, the status is the percentage of the EL students who have made progress towards English language proficiency. In order to calculate status, we have to have 2 years of data. So for the calculation of the LP only for status, we are using the 21 ELPAC summative results, and we're using the 22 ELPAC summative results to determine status. If a charter school was in differentiated assistance prior to the pandemic, will they automatically be in differentiated assistance once it returns? Or do charter schools get a fresh start? Differentiated assistance determinations are made annually. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, the districts and schools, districts, county offices, and charter schools that were in differentiated assistance in 2019 remained in differentiated assistance in 21 and 20. But using the 22 dashboard, differentiated assistance determinations will be made for 22 assistants for districts and county offices only. Charter schools will not be eligible for differentiated assistance for 2022. So in other words, there are no exit criteria for differentiated assistance, unlike CSI and ATSI. We make those determinations annually, and this year, only those schools, only districts and county offices will be eligible. All charter schools, in that case, will not be eligible for differentiated assistance no longer. Let's see if there's any others. And that is it. I'll send it back to you, Kim.
Thank you so much, Justin. I have a question that perhaps Cindy can help us out with. Since ED did not approve our DAS waiver, will DAS schools be identified for the CSI using the combined graduation rate?
So just a little preview. We do have a notice from the U.S. Department of Education, and it'll be released publicly on the State Board of Education's website tomorrow in an information memorandum that they have denied our waiver. And in doing that, it sets forward in motion a couple of things. And the first is that the State Board of Education will be asked to give us direction, us being the California Department of Education, on next steps. So we are trying to consider all available options. And so I would just repeat, I think what's already been said is to stay tuned. Please, if you're not a dashboard or an accountability coordinator, just be vigilant about looking at our website. But if you should be a coordinator and haven't signed up, this is another plug for our listserv. I think there was also a question that I wanted to pick up on around local indicators. And so again, if you haven't put your contact information in here, there are some questions we just cannot answer because we need to get some additional information. But this is one that I think I can pick up on. And I'm wondering, Kimberly, if you could read it out loud, because I'm going between a couple of screens here.
What was it regarding? I'm looking.
I think so. Part of what's going on is tomorrow, I believe, is when the dashboard is reset for coordinators. So I believe this is the magic weekend that our team in our local agency support office does the reset of accountability, or rather dashboard coordinators for the year. And so Monday it reopens and we ask coordinators to sign up. We have shortened the window for dashboard coordinators to input local indicators. And in part, that's because the local indicators about a year or two ago, the deadline was moved up to June 30th. And so those local indicators should have already been approved by a local board. And so with that in mind, there was interest from our partners at the State Board of Education to reduce the window of that submission. So again, the important role among many that a dashboard coordinator plays is that they need to upload the local indicator information on an annual basis to the dashboard. And so again, that reset takes place, I believe, tomorrow, and it opens on Monday for you to reestablish yourself in that role, because like many things around really sensitive data, we do a reset on an annual basis.
Betty, are there a couple more questions for you to answer in there?
Well, I do see one about industry certifications and if they tie to CTE pathways. And that's a great question, because we are looking into developing out that measure. And because we're still developing out that measure with our colleagues in the Career and College Transition Division in our interest groups, we still have not gotten to the point yet of exactly what rules apply to that particular measure, and even what the criteria would be, right? What would place a student in prepared? What would place a student in approaching prepared for the CCI? So definitely stay tuned for more information about that measure. Yeah, I'll keep on scrolling through, Kim, but I'm not seeing one. Yeah.
I see one that says, who should be your dashboard coordinator? And that's a good question. And it might be one you need to have at your LEA, because dashboard coordinators are the folks that are responsible for submitting your local indicators. So that is someone that might be close to your board work, because they need to present it to the board. It might be someone close to, your CAASPP office. It really is a local decision and determination, but you really do need one. And that person is going to be the nexus of submitting those local indicators and making sure they're represented as approved by your board and organized by your school district or LEA and there. So you want someone who's responsible, timely, and who is very key, as Cindy just mentioned, available between August and September to be able to input all of that, and who can take it to the board prior to this August opening date for approval.
Yeah, and I'm seeing here that some of you have provided us your email address, and so thank you so much for doing that. We will definitely, for any questions we can't reply to right now, as Cindy said, we will definitely be responding back to you.
A couple final ones I see here. One that's near and dear to my heart, as Cindy mentioned before, in regards to the California School Dashboard in 2022, will growth be measured by the 22 data back to 2019? So we are not measuring any student growth as far as a student growth measure within accountability. That next measurement for student growth will be in 2024 when we have 3 years of data available. Additionally, we will not be measuring change as we indicated on the dashboard, and change is the difference between year-over-year performance on your dashboard and within your dashboard metrics. And we will not be measuring that for everything except for the LP because it is a growth measure. We will not be measuring any sort of change on the dashboard in 2022. So no growth measure and no change available. When is the dashboard live? So as we stated in the slides, we are looking to release the to LEAs for private preview in late fall, and we are anticipating a public release in December. If anything changes, we will definitely make you aware and notify you of those changes. And with that, I see, thank you very much for so many email addresses that have been shared so that we can respond to you directly. Again, please look out through your accountability coordinators for additional communications coming out from AMARD around everything accountability. Check us out on Twitter. And we will be available for webinars this fall as well for all of your detailed questions that you might have thought might be too silly to ask today. We have many opportunities to do that. And finally, dashboard@cde.ca.gov is your perfect opportunity for any of those late night questions that you have around accountability. Send them our way and we will be sure to get back to you.
Just a huge shout out to Kim and the team again. This was a huge effort and we do appreciate being here and look forward to seeing many of you over the next couple of months. But you know how to contact us in the meanwhile if you need anything. So back to Amy.
Thank you to all of you who presented today. I've seen a lot of excited emojis coming up from the corner today, which is kind of fun and exciting. So thank you. Please feel free to contact the CDE with any policy questions. Contact information for each office is included in your note-taking guide. Also remember that CalTAC is your go-to for help with any technical support if you're the LEA level coordinator. We also want to remind you to subscribe to the Assessment Spotlight if you haven't already. And if you want a different way to hear about its assessment news, follow the CDE Assessment Division on Twitter. They are at CDE Assessments. We also want to let you know about our upcoming conference. The California Assessment Conference is October 18th through the 20th. It is designed especially for classroom teachers and site administrators. The CAC, as we call it, will be held in person this year with a virtual option. In addition to key information about assessment topics, this conference will feature many local educational agencies who will share their best practices. The link to the CAC website is in your note-taking guide. Please help us spread the word and get teachers registered for this great event. And then today we are sending out the coordinator survey. So please share your ideas with us. We value your feedback and have used it to make many improvements to our processes and programs. So look for that in your email. And that brings us to the end of our meeting. We hope that the information that we've shared with you today was helpful and timely. And as always, we want to remind you that we are your collaborators and partners in this work. You can reach out through the networks of coordinators in similar roles throughout the state, and you always have the staff at the CDE ready and available to answer your questions. We will be sending out a post-meeting survey at the end of this meeting. So if you haven't filled it out before, go ahead and take a minute to complete that. We are always looking to improve this meeting. And with that, thank you for joining us for this whole 3-part meeting. We will see you next year. Thank you. Bye-bye.